Hello, my name is Abigail and welcome back to Polyglot Progress. Today is May 2nd, 2021, and this is the start of my May recap video. I am pretty moved in at this point. That's kind of a lie. I have a lot to unpack still, and we're still waiting on quite a bit of furniture, but my office is starting to come together. The shelf definitely makes it look like it's a little bit more together than it actually is, but still it's pretty close to done. One of the things that I have made a goal for myself in 2021 and was something that I was kind of doing before 2021 is having at least 1 hour of active study a day and then doing immersion stuff on top of that, but I have been making sure that I commit at least an hour a day to active study. But I have not done this at all for the last month, probably. There's of course been days that I have actually managed to do it. I've had italki lessons or I've managed to carve a little bit of time out, but for the most part my life has been work and then all of my free time has been consumed by moving. So now that I'm, at least in my apartment and I'm starting to unpack and starting to have a little bit more time for hobbies and relaxing. I'm really hoping that by the end of this I've really picked up that kind of habit and that method again, and we'll just be studying for at least an hour a day every day and then doing immersion on top of that because I really haven't. So yesterday I did one chapter in this German vocabulary book. I don't usually use vocabulary books to learn vocabulary. That's not something you will really hear me talking too much about on this channel, but I have owned that book for quite a while now. I've been meaning to kind of go through it, even just to kind of parse out a few words that I don't know and then at some point get rid of it. So yesterday I started off my study session with a little bit of memorize. Again, just going through that German top 5,000 words, I believe it is, course that I've been doing for the last like 4 years. I don't use memorize every single day, so it's been a long and slow process, but whenever I do kind of get around to it, I have been really enjoying it. I feel like it's a good way for me to refresh vocabulary I have seen or learned elsewhere, and a good way to be exposed to some new vocabulary sometimes as well that I end up seeing quite quickly afterwards. And then I did the chapter in that German vocabulary book on animals. Then I used that information and a Wikipedia article to write a very, very short essay, if you will, or short writing exercise thing on ball pythons. This was really fun and honestly really helpful. I feel like it is something that I probably won't do very often in a language class. That's not a topic I'm talking about very often, but I like that I got to practice all of these words. I got to talk about something that I do know information about in English, but maybe didn't know how to express in German. Overall, it just kind of pushed my German a bit, and I'm really excited, really happy with how that turned out. And so then today I wanted to kind of continue that sort of thing, but with a different language. So I looked up some Spanish essay words. I found it on a blog that was kind of talking about the AP Spanish exam, and I learned some of those. I haven't really had to write any formal kind of things in Spanish, so I just didn't really know a lot of those kinds of phrases that, you might learn if you were taking AP Spanish. So I learned those. I then did a little bit of vocabulary learning related to COVID and the pandemic and things like that, and then I started writing another essay. I am writing about restrictions and reopening and things like that, give myself some practice with all of those words, and I'm planning to finish this whenever the next time I do Spanish is, probably tomorrow honestly, just so I can kind of finish up this essay. We'll have to see how I'm feeling. I got my second dose of the vaccine today and I'm starting to feel it, so I'm hoping that tomorrow I feel well enough to just do full amounts of studying, but I do know that probably I'm gonna be feeling a little bit sick tomorrow. Probably gonna have to take things a little bit easier. But hey, none of it can be as bad as when I had the flu earlier this year. Do we remember that? What a wild time that was. I feel like this last week or so has been really good. I have finally pretty much finished unpacking, and so the past few days I have ended up doing more than an hour of study every day, sometimes with multiple languages, and every single time it has never been like, oh, I said that I wanted to do an hour of study today. Every time it has actually been that I haven't set out to do any sort of study other than the day before yesterday, because I have just kind of been in the mood to do language stuff. And so that's what I've done in my spare time when I've had time that I don't need to be unpacking. Definitely throughout the past 2 months or so, I've had to actively set time aside and actively consciously make the decision to study alongside moving and make that kind of time to fit it in alongside the stress of moving. And then I wasn't really doing any of it at all. And so I just kind of worried that I was going to fall into this place where I was really just not keeping up with the things that I set out to do. But it's been really nice to just see that when I do have time, I am automatically gravitating towards it anyway. So I guess I really didn't need to worry about that after all. I just did not have time and I was very stressed, and so that's why I had to be a little bit more disciplined and conscious with it previously. And now that I have time, it can just be a fun and relaxing thing again. I did consciously set time aside the day before yesterday though, because yesterday was my first Bulgarian lesson. So the day before yesterday, I did an hour study of Bulgarian, but that one was actually something that I did much later in the day because I knew I had a lesson coming up. Other than that, I watched an hour of Dark in German. I did a ton of German memorized. Something about the other day, I just was really feeling memorize. I was really feeling working on my German vocabulary, so I did. I also booked a bunch of language lessons. I booked 4 or 5 new Spanish lessons, 4 new Bulgarian lessons, and a German lesson to just try out because it's with a new tutor. If that goes well, then I'll book more lessons with her. And I already have ASL scheduled through May, June, and beginning of July. It starts the last week in May, so it's not really through May, I guess, but starting soon. Today I have my Spanish lesson, my first Spanish lesson back. Yesterday I read a New York Times article and looked up new words. I felt like it helped a lot. I did a little bit of reading of my poetry book as well. And so today, as I finish all of this unpacking, because I am still determined to finish by my birthday, and then I'll finally be done, I'm probably gonna watch either a show or a movie or some YouTube videos in Spanish. Just try to continue to work on my Spanish immersion. I also need to figure out a system for myself, I think, immersion-wise. I like being able to do it spur of the moment, but I just want to kind of be a little bit more intentional with it. I've just been struggling, I think, recently with my kind of more intermediate languages, just because I feel, I don't know how to explain it, less productive with my languages when I'm doing certain immersion activities versus working out of a textbook, which I think is kind of a remnant of the school system for me still, that I just need to figure out, because the stage I'm at, the way for me to progress is not through textbooks. It is going to be through immersing myself in the language. So I just need to find a way where I feel like I'm growing through doing that, and I understand that that is the most helpful thing and all of those things. But yeah, for now, it's time to do a little bit of unpacking. I don't think the light is going to pick it up, but I am looking beet red right now, which can only mean one thing. I had an italki lesson. I had a German lesson. I was really not feeling going into this lesson, so I'm really glad about how it went, which I will talk about in a second. I had a really bad experience with a German tutor at the start of this year. It was hard having that as my first lesson back and just feeling so dejected and bad about my level. But I was really proud of myself. The thing that I did was I immediately booked a lesson for like 2 days later with another tutor. Everything in me was like, I can't work with another German tutor. I have to learn so much German. I'm never gonna speak German again, which is, I feel like, a lot of my way of handling those types of situations, and I'm really trying to not do that anymore and trying to just make myself uncomfortable more often. So I booked another lesson. Loved the next tutor. She just does not have availability that works well with me. So I was on to another tutor and was definitely worried again. And especially because this past week has been so hectic, and today was so hectic. I worked all day. I had a lot to do tonight. Sort of remembered that this German lesson was today and was like, I can't speak German also. But we had a really good conversation and I really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to book more lessons with her. So I've been doing a lot of studying. I've been pretty much doing an hour a day pretty consistently, and then trying to do a little bit of immersion as well. I would say that part of my routine is not yet back full force yet, but I'm really working on it. Something that I'm trying to do right now is get myself doing 30 minutes of reading a day, regardless of language. It can be in English even, and also obviously my 30 minutes immersion does not have to be that reading time. I have talked about this a lot, but I love reading. I miss reading a lot because I don't do it very often. I kind of stopped while in school other than reading things for classes, and it's just been really hard for me to get myself reading outside of school, and then now that I've graduated, reading in general. So I'm trying to get myself just to read for 30 minutes a day, whether that's at the start of the day, during a lunch break, at the end of the day before I go to bed, just at some point. And I feel like it's going to be not necessarily easy, but easier right now because I've finally finished getting myself unpacked, getting myself settled in, and I can't even explain how much free time it feels like I have. It honestly, nothing changed about my work situation other than that I'm working more hours, but just not having unpacking things to do and moving things to do for the first time in so many months makes it feel like I literally have unlimited time. It's amazing. So naturally, it's time to fill that up with language time. So I'm trying to get myself into an at least 3 lesson type things a week kind of schedule right now. Sundays, I have a Bulgarian lesson in the morning. Fridays, I have my ASL class in the evening starting this week. And then Tuesday evenings, I'm going to switch off German and Spanish. So every other week I'll have a German lesson, every other week I'll have a Spanish lesson, and I need to figure out how French and Italian fit into these. As always, they are in a weird place this year being kind of maintenance languages. I just haven't yet figured out the perfect way to fit that in, especially because I had to kind of throw off my whole routine anyway to move here. I'm trying to make it work the best I can, and I think I need to just push myself to speak to myself, speak to a camera, do whatever I can to practice speaking between lessons as well. And just continue to write more. I am trying to get myself to write more and then post everything I write on Journally. I had my first session back to ASL, so first ASL 102 class on Friday, the day before yesterday, and I wish I had prepared more for that. I definitely have not had time to really keep up with my ASL as much as I would like to. That was definitely a thing in my life that kind of got put on hold a little bit during the move, and boy oh boy do I wish I had prepared just a little bit more for that class. It was a review session anyway, so I'm definitely going to spend some time this upcoming week going back and really spending quite a bit of time on each of the lessons from ASL 101. I now have a Bulgarian lesson in 2 minutes. I also don't feel ready for this one. I definitely did not get to study much Bulgarian this week either. It was a very busy week. My Bulgarian lesson definitely went quite poorly. Not at all because of the setup or the tutor or anything. I just definitely was having a hard time remembering words, and a lot of the words were brand new and all of those kinds of things. I definitely wish I had had a little bit more time to study. I didn't study much this past week, and I knew that going in, but I wish I'd gotten more time because I definitely feel like I would have felt a lot better about my progress during that lesson had I had a little bit more study time. But after that, I did get a chance to do some reading just as a kind of relaxing thing in the afternoon. I read about a chapter and a half in German, which means that I am really quite close to finishing the first book in the Percy Jackson series. I do already own the second book, so I can start reading that one pretty immediately. Tomorrow is going to be in the next vlog because it's June, but it's going to be a very busy day, and I do have a Spanish lesson tomorrow evening. It's going to be my first Spanish lesson back. My Spanish tutor was sick when I was supposed to have a lesson 2 weeks ago. I am really looking forward to it. I really enjoy my Spanish lessons a lot. I would like to do some Spanish today so that I don't feel like it goes like my Bulgarian lesson went. I don't think it will. Bulgarian lessons are hard for me in general. I definitely don't know many words at all, and I've found that I am towards the end of Colloquial Bulgarian, the textbook. I am moving up in the Bulgarian Pod 101 levels, and so the words that I'm being given are more like intermediate type level words. Things like environment and climate change and things like that I don't need right now. What I need is to know how to say things like kitchen and things like that are very basic. I don't have those words. I have these higher level words, and I've noticed that kind of problem in other languages too. I think just based on the nature of how a lot of textbooks like that kind of work, they want you to kind of feel like you've made a ton of progress, so you get really advanced words or whatever. I definitely have noticed that with things like Spanish and German even sometimes, I can talk about things that are a bit more advanced, like climate change, for example, but I can't always say things about my day and the things that I did that day just because I have a habit of kind of moving too far ahead, I think. And I think that also happens just with myself. I can have more of an interest in reading an article on some political issue and learn a lot of words through that, but I also need to make sure that I'm going back and learning things like body parts and all of this kind of more boring, easy things that are super important. What I've been trying to do recently for those kind of higher level languages is doing things like writing articles or essays or journal entries, whatever I kind of format them as, about basic topics that can also be taken further. So writing about things like animals and using that as a way to write about very basic things like names of animals or types of environments like tropical or desert or things like that, but also using it as a way to then talk about more advanced things, tying in more advanced vocabulary and grammar structures with also very basic low-level words so that I don't forget those words if I've already learned them, or I realize that I don't know how to say very basic things. That's not so much the problem with Bulgarian though. With Bulgarian, it's that I have a very, very small vocabulary to begin with, and now I feel like it's a little frustrating because I feel like the materials I'm using are jumping too far ahead of where I need to be right now. But luckily I have an A1 specific textbook, and my tutor also has that same textbook and another textbook that is made just for kind of A1 level stuff. I'm definitely going to be focusing more on that A1 textbook and just kind of more basic and more at my level vocabulary because that's what I need right now. For Spanish tonight, I am going to read an article, I don't know what it will be on, and learn some new vocabulary through that. And maybe if I feel like it, I'll write like a summary of what I read, but I kind of feel like that's not going to happen. I've really been enjoying intensive reading for Spanish recently. Usually I will read aloud whatever I'm reading and then take notes of any new vocabulary words and then just try to talk myself through a summary or write a summary about what I read. I'm definitely starting to feel more settled in. I'm starting to get into the routine of working and all of the things. I don't have to unpack anymore. So I definitely say that June, I think, can be a month where every single day I hit that hour. So stay tuned for next month when hopefully every single day I study for an hour and do some sort of immersion of reading or watching things as well. Hopefully reading. I'm trying to build up that reading habit and so far it's going pretty well. I would love to hear how your May went for your language learning and also just your life. And other than that, I will see you on Wednesday, and remember, practice makes progress.